Episode 1 Genetic Breakthrough. Dear Evie Langdon, an eccentric yet brilliant geneticist with an unruly mop of auburn hair, is at the heart of the bustling laboratory. Around her, arrays of monitors flicker with genetic sequence while petri dishes are filled with her latest samples. She carries a sense of strict professionalism but is sprinkled with a zest for life that's often revealed through her playful collection of colorful lab coats. In her spare time, she nurtures a loving yet chaotic home filled with rescued animals, quirky antiques, and an abundance of indoor plants. This particular day, she's focused on her revolutionary gene editing experiment. She's working with an amalgam of DNA sequence, trying to engineer a creature that would showcase the limitless potential of her research. Through precise manipulations, she introduces a series of complex genes into a cluster of cells. Weeks of anticipation pass before a tangible result is finally produced, something she didn't expect at all. In a petri dish, a small creature, no larger than a tennis ball, has taken form. It's a small, fuzzy entity with large gleaming eyes, a creature she affectionately names the genie. Genie has an almost otherworldly charm, its fur shimmering in an array of iridescent colors. It moves with a grace that belies its lab-born origin, its large eyes exhibiting a level of sentience that's unnerving and intriguing in equal measures. The genie, in its initial existence, appears docile, almost pet-like. But Evie soon notices something remarkable about it. One night, out of exhaustion and frustration over a failed analytical procedure, she mutters a wish for a completed data analysis, half-jokingly, in the guinea's presence. To her astonishment, the next morning, she finds the analysis completed, flawlessly. It takes a few more wishes for a clean lab, for a successful grant proposal, for a hot cup of coffee, for her to realize what's happening. The genie isn't just a genetic anomaly. It's a creature that can grant wishes. This discovery leaves Evie in awe. But it also stirs a storm of questions within her. What are the limits of the guinea's powers? What are the consequences? And what does this mean for her, her research, and the world at large? Despite the breakthrough, she remains grounded and committed to her scientific principles. Her thirst for knowledge is as insatiable as her love for her quirky home life. And as she continues her research, she becomes increasingly aware of the delicate balance between her professional aspirations and personal affections. Little does she know, these boundaries will be tested more than ever in the coming days. Episode 2 The Wish and the Consequence. The morning light seeped through the blinds of her lab, casting elongated shadows on dear Evie Langdon's workstation. Her mind was a whirlwind of disbelief, excitement, and a touch of fear. Her hands trembled ever so slightly as she picked up a steaming cup of coffee, seemingly conjured out of thin air by the genie. It was warm, just the way she liked it, with the right amount of sweetness and a hint of vanilla, as she had muttered in her wish. She allowed herself for a moment to ponder, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Was this actually happening? Or was she caught in an elaborate dream? Part of her, the scientific part, clamored for evidence, for repeated trials and results, for verifiable proof. Yet another part, the part that delighted in her rescued pets and eccentric home, wanted to accept the magic that seemed to have appeared in her life. Days morphed into a blur of rigorous testing, whispered wishes, and astounding results. Every successful manifestation brought with it a wave of excitement that made her heart race and her cheeks flush. Yet, With each passing day, her initial incredulity and thrill gave way to something heavier, more profound. The realization of the power she held, and the responsibility it carried. A pivotal moment came when, in a moment of exuberance, she wished for her research to achieve massive success and global recognition. The next day, the lab was filled with a whirlwind of activity. Calls from leading scientific journals wanting to feature her research, invitations to prestigious conference, or sudden influx of grant money. It was everything she'd ever dreamed of. It was also utterly overwhelming. Yet, as her professional life skyrocketed, her personal life began to fracture. Calls from her friends and family went unanswered as her time was swallowed by interviews, presentations, and increasing lab work. Her once comforting home turned into a space of clutter and neglect. Her beloved plants wilting, and her pets feeling lonely. The stress began to mount, leaving her tired and irritable. It was in this vortex of success and chaos that Evie first noticed the consequences of her wish. Her heart sank as she realized the toll her newfound success was taking on her life, or sense of dread creeping into her exhilaration. In the dim light of her chaotic home, she found herself staring at the genie, nestled in its enclosure. Its eyes gleamed in the semi-darkness, and she was struck by a sudden, potent mixture of awe and fear. What had she unleashed? Episode 3: Guinea's Limit. The news of Dr. Evie Langdon's phenomenal rise in the scientific world was eclipsed by rumors of Guinea's wish-granting powers. These whispers, initially confined to her inner circle, soon found their way into wider circles, sparking intrigue, excitement, and a rising tide of wishful thinking. The world was agog with the possibilities, the magical entity turning into an object of fevered fascination. Among the lab staff, a bright yet reserved lab assistant named Milo was the first to test Guinea's abilities outside of Evie's experiments. One day, burdened with the pressure to excel and a yearning to prove himself, Milo made a wish. He wished to become the smartest person in the world, his ambition shining brightly in his eager eyes. Almost immediately, he found his intellect growing exponentially. Complex theories became child's play, and new ideas formed as easily as breathing. But with this newfound intelligence came an unbearable arrogance. His conversations became a torrent of jargon and ideas so advanced that they were alienating. His inability to connect with people, including his peers and family, began to isolate him, and he spiraled into a lonely existence, unable to enjoy the intellect he so craved. Meanwhile, the world's infatuation with the genie only grew. Tales of granted wishes proliferated, creating an escalating series of fantastical stories. From people acquiring sudden wealth to overnight transformations and more. The genie, for all intents and purposes, had become a global sensation. Yet, with each fulfilled wish, the costs became apparent. A lottery winner faced crippling isolation as long-lost relatives and opportunists swarmed him for a share of his newfound wealth. The world seemed entranced by Guinea's capabilities. But Evie noticed the undercurrents of dread, the mounting costs of unchecked wishes. She watched, with growing concern, as people fell into the Guinea's allure, oblivious to the consequences. As the severity of the repercussions increased, the Guinea's limitation became clear. It granted wishes, but not without a price that could be far steeper than anyone could anticipate. Episode 4: Reversal of Fortune. As the news of the genie spread beyond the confines of Evie's lab and inner circle, it attracted the attention of a powerful and ambitious politician, Senator Harold Greenfield. He saw the genie as a tool or means to his ultimate end, power. He managed to secure a meeting with Evie and, against her pleas of caution, he voiced his wish to the genie, his eyes reflecting a hunger for untamed ambition. He wished to be unbeatable in all future elections. Almost instantly, Senator Greenfield's popularity soared. His speeches drew unprecedented crowds, his policies were hailed as groundbreaking, and his charismatic persona was lauded by the media. He won his next election by a landslide, a feat he repeated in successive polls. But it was a triumph that came with unexpected strings. Greenfield found himself trapped in a relentless cycle of campaigning, debates, and public scrutiny. His life became a public spectacle, every action and decision dissected by the media and the public. The demands of office left him no respite, and he soon yearned for the privacy and tranquility he had taken for granted. The consequences of his wish were mirrored in other wishes as well. A world-famous singer who wished for eternal youth found herself trapped in an ageless body, forced to watch as her loved ones grew old and passed away. A renowned scientist who wished for unlimited knowledge was driven to the brink of insanity by the constant influx of information, unable to shut it official. These stories became a haunting testimony to the perils of unchecked wishes. The world had been seduced by the promise of the genie's powers, blind to the repercussions. The consequences, initially subtle, had now started to create rifts in the fabric of society. In her lab, dear Evie Langdon bore witness to this escalating chaos, the uneasy weight of her creation heavy on her conscience. Her initial excitement had long given way to fear and apprehension as she watched the world grapple with the harsh reality of their blessings. Episode 5: Unchained Genie. With each passing day, dear Evie Langdon could see the impact of the genie rippling through society. The world was caught in the throes of a wild genie frenzy. The media awash with tales of miraculous fortune and devastating downfalls. The echoes of excitement were now tinged with undercurrents of fear and desperation. Evie found herself grappling with the ramifications of her creation. She was caught in an ethical quagmire, torn between her responsibility as a scientist and her desire to prevent further harm. Her lab, once a sanctuary of curiosity and discovery, was now the epicenter of a global crisis. Fueled by a sense of urgency, she turned to her research, hoping to find a way to control the genie's powers. She worked tirelessly, sifting through complex genetic sequence, exploring every potential pathway to limit the wish-granting ability, to introduce or fail-safe. But each experiment seemed to hit a dead end, the genie's genetic code proving to be as elusive and unpredictable as its powers. Meanwhile, the world continued to balance on the precipice of desire and disaster. Dreams were fulfilled only to spiral into nightmares, the alluring promise of the genie too powerful to resist. A hush of apprehension had descended upon the world, the excitement of newfound fortune tinged with the dread of impending calamity. In the heart of this chaos, Evie faced a monumental decision. Should she use the genie's powers for her own objectives, to guarantee the success of her attempts to control it? Or should she reveal the truth of the genie's existence and its unpredictable consequences to the world? As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across her lab, Evie sat in silent contemplation, the genie resting quietly in its enclosure. The world waited, teetering on the edge of a revolution or a catastrophe, with the destiny of the genie hanging in the balance. The curtain falls on an open-ended finale, leaving Evie's decision shrouded in mystery, the world's fate, and the future of the genie uncertain. A lesson lingers in the air, every wish granted is or choice made, and every choice carries or price. As the story unfolds in the hearts and minds of the audience, they are left to ponder what would they wish for, and what price would they be willing to pay. Thank you for watching. You could download the vocabulary PDF below. To stay up to date on our future videos, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, and let us know what you think in the comments below.